You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
Let's talk about Peggy.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No.
Be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week.
You landed haymakers on Joe Biden. How do you go from being such a passionate opponent?
It was a debate.
Ron Gold has said that he is for the legalization of marijuana recreationally. Your thoughts on that?
That he's entitled to his opinion.
So if it was legalized all throughout the country and medicinal, would you do it?
Listen, I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jon DiVito Show. It is Monday morning, and oh, my God, Kamala Harris, her laugh literally makes you want to gouge out my eyeballs with a spoon if I could. So it's one of those things where, you know what, it's Monday morning. We're going to kind of wake everybody up. Of course, it's 11:30 Eastern time, but for my West Coast people, it's still early in the morning. So I'm taking my lunch break. And as I always do, when I have time with work, I do a podcast. So this is going to be my lunch break podcast today. And I've got a bunch of things I want to talk about today. So it should be a fun show. So I'm looking forward to having hopefully some people come in the live to enjoy some of the show. And also just kind of talk about some of the things that I want to bring up today. Now, we're going to have a mixed show today. It's not going to be all about politics or all about one particular subject. For me, we're into the springtime. We're getting closer to summer. The weather here has been pretty good. And today, I think we're going to be about 70 degrees here in the Massachusetts area, which for us, it was a nice day. I mean, it's still a little cold. I prefer weather over 80. And when I get into that area, I'm pretty happy. But again, my weekend as usual, we were busy with baseball. That's pretty much what we do on weekends. My youngest two play a lot of games. My son Brandon had a Little League game Saturday night. He had 2 travel games on Sunday, 2 travel games on Saturday. So he literally played 5 baseball games this weekend. Ethan played 3 baseball games this weekend. So we had 8 baseball games between our 2 children today. So that ended up being kind of a crazy busy day or days, as you can imagine. And sometimes, honestly, it's like a break to go back to work on Mondays because you get back to work and you kind of get a chance to relax a little bit and not have to drive all over creation in order to go to these baseball games. So it is what it is. We have fun. And before we know it, the kids are going to be gone. They're getting older, as all of you know that have tuned into my show. My son Matt is 18 this year. He's going to try his hand at community college next year, and he's going to be living in a dorm that was actually put together by the high school that he went to, and he's very excited to live on his own. Of course, mom and dad aren't quite as excited. We're kind of nervous about seeing our firstborn fly out the door, but at the same time, we're very proud of him that he's going to be able to do that and go out and live on his own and start to live his own life. Hey, Ismael, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. Eric, of course, is here. And so, the kids are getting older. We've got my daughter who's 16, and she is going to be a junior in high school next year, taking her PSATs. And I'm very proud of her. Caitlyn is a straight A student, very, very smart, a lot smarter than I am. She gets that from her mother. I'm doing very well, Ismael. I hope you're doing well also. So she actually now is coming around to the fact that she might want to be a doctor like her mother. So, man, I'll tell you, I'm going to be surrounded by intelligent women, which is not a bad thing because they have to kind of help me overcompensate for my inadequacies in school and things like that. So Mike from Tampa Bay, welcome to the show, my friend. And Mike, we've got to set up that interview. I did get your email and I just forgot to respond to you. But one of these days, I'm going to interview Mike from Tampa Bay, and we're going to do a full-blown interview with him, get to know a little bit more about him and all that good stuff. So we get Chris coming in from the Forgotten Tunes also. We got some people pouring in. Chris, good to see you. Thanks for coming into the show. So anyway, I was just highlighting my weekend a little bit. And, we are going to talk a little politics later on, but I wanted to talk about some other things first. It was funny. I was searching the news today, looking to do some things for my show. And I came up with a couple of news stories, and then that also led me into like Mother's Day and collectible antiques and things like that. And those are some things like collectible antiques is something that I collect quite a bit of. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But did you guys see the story from Colorado this weekend? I mean, this is crazy. Now, where I live in New England, we have black bears. We had a black bear in my backyard, I don't know, probably 7-8 years ago. And it was a big bear. At the time, my 4 kids were kind of small, and I was working in my office where I am right now doing the podcast. And we had 2 dogs at the time, 2 black dogs. And I had told my kids, listen, don't let the dogs out. They don't have their collars on. They can't run around the neighborhood. So keep them in. So my kids were like, okay, Dad. So I'm in my office doing my work. And all of a sudden I see the rear end of this big black animal go past my office window. So I look over and I see its butt really quickly. So I yelled at my kids. I'm like, guys, I told you, please don't let the dogs out. We can't let them run around the neighborhood. And my son yells back, Dad, both of the dogs are right here. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. So then I look back again and realized the backside of this animal was gigantic. So I was like, oh my God, that's a black bear that literally just walked like a foot from my window. So I go to my front door. There's like a little small porch that you can walk out on. There's the bear sitting right in my driveway. And it was facing me. It was probably 20 feet away from me. So I was like, holy crap. That was the first time I'd ever seen a bear in my yard and that close. And it wasn't a small bear. This was a large male black bear. It had to be, I have no idea, 600 pounds. It was giant. So I'm like, holy crap. And at the time, I had a different phone with a crappy camera, but I had to take a picture of it. So I step out my front porch with my hand still on the door. I was ready to bolt right back in. And I got a nice picture of it. It was funny. The bear was just licking himself, just like a dog would. And it looked right at me, didn't care. I didn't bother him at all. And he looked at me, went right back to what he was doing. I went into the house. He got done cleaning himself, just walked right into the woods, and he was gone. So that was what my one experience with a black bear. So we do have them here in New England. But in Colorado, if you saw this story, a Colorado woman went out for a walk with her 2 dogs. So she went out for a walk. Hey, Moonfeather, welcome. So she went out for a walk with her 2 dogs, and literally, her boyfriend came home at a certain point and saw the dogs, a few hours later, just running around their yard with their leashes still on. And he was like, okay, that's not right. So what the hell's going on? So he looked around the house for his girlfriend. She wasn't there. And he went out, started searching for her, obviously guessing that something was wrong. And he eventually found her body off the side of the road. And not to be gross or anything, but when the police came, he called the police, they came, they found her, and they said that her body had been partially consumed. And they found like bear hair, they found scratches on her body, they found apparently bear scat right near the body. So apparently this woman in Colorado was attacked and killed by a black bear and was left there on the side of the road. So just a terrible story, very scary. And certainly makes you you got to remind yourself to be careful. For me, I don't even think a bear up here because we very rarely see them. But I live out in the woods, and we certainly have all kinds of animals living in the yard. We have deer in our yard all the time. We've had moose, we've had bear, and when you hear a story like that, it really makes you realize you have to respect nature and be very careful when you go out, because you never know, if you run into the wrong animal at the wrong time. And I guess the police were saying that this bear was apparently a mother bear, and her cubs were found nearby, and the authorities did euthanize the bear and her cubs when they found her. So kind of sad, kind of crazy. I'm going to read off another story before we get into talking about some of the things I wanted to talk about today. And again, before I get into the political part of it, I want to talk a little bit about Mother's Day, collectibles, things like that. And then we're going to get into some of the other things I want to talk about. But I had to hit this one right at the top of my show. I saw in the news. Now, we've all been talking about Moon Feather, you're right. I agree completely. I thought the same thing on the story when I saw it in the news. They euthanized the mother and then they euthanized the cubs also. I don't know why they did that. Because again, as we all know, if you come across a bear, especially a mother bear, and she is near her cubs, she will defend her cubs vigorously. So I agree. I heard that in the news too. I thought the same thing, that was kind of uncalled for, that they didn't need to euthanize the cubs as well. So I'm with you there 100%. And I don't know why they did that. That to me seemed like a decision that didn't need to be made, unfortunately. But I don't know. I wasn't there, so I'm not sure why they did it, but very unfortunate that the cubs had to lose their lives as well. So did anybody see the story out of Disney World by any chance? You know, we've got this whole thing going on with the canceled culture and all the things that are being canceled right now in our society. And I don't know if anybody saw, but the canceled culture people, hey, Jess, the canceled culture people are now after Disney World. Apparently, you know, they've reopened, you know, after COVID, and they made some changes apparently to the Snow White ride. Now, I've been to Disney World a bunch of times. I don't even think I remember the Snow White ride, but apparently with the Snow White ride, at the end of the ride, of course, I may get the names wrong, but I think it's Prince Charming kisses Snow White and brings her back to life, right? That's, I think, the story that happens. So apparently the canceled culture want them to close the ride now because at the end of the ride, the prince kisses Snow White and brings her back to life. However, since she was unconscious, she was not able to give her consent for him to kiss her. So because she could not give consent and he kissed her anyway while she was unconscious, the cancel culture now wants to cancel the Snow White ride at Disney World. People, good Lord. I mean, you know, this is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. I mean, come on, you know, it is just nuts to me that these type of things are happening. This was a child's fairy tale. It's a beautiful story. The prince kisses her, brings her back to life. I mean, how can you possibly try to twist this into something that's evil, something that's dirty, something that should be canceled? I mean, we really in this society need to get a grip, right? It's a story. Exactly. It is a story. You know, we'll give you a little ding, ding, ding for that one. You would think that would be common sense. You know, hey, layman in the town, welcome. Welcome to everybody else coming in. So, you know, so cancel culture, they're after Disney World. They're trying to get rid of the Snow White ride because, yes, Prince Charming tried to kiss Snow White without getting her consent. I don't know, man. You know, I'm a Gen Xer, and I don't even know what to say. The world is so vastly different from when I was a teenager, you know, back in the 80s to what it is now. I mean, something like this just makes no sense. It's a children's ride. It's an amusement park. There is nothing nasty. There is nothing dirty. And to try to turn that into some type of rapey thing is just absolutely disgusting. So, but you know what'll happen? Disney will give in, and I'm sure they'll probably make a change, and they'll have to eliminate the kiss because Snow White was sleeping and she wasn't able to give consent. So, you know... Right, exactly, Moonfeather. She was under a spell. It's a fictional story. You're right. Now, she did has to be poisoned. You're right. So was it the witch, I think, that poisoned her, right? Was it the apple? I'm really bad with fairy tales. But now if the witch poisoned her with the apple, now again, shouldn't the witch be canceled? I mean, the witch, you know, poisoned her, right? And she didn't ask to be poisoned with an apple. So, I mean, the whole thing, you know, I don't know if the apple should be considered like a roofie, you know, from Snow White. I'm not sure what's going on. But come on, people. I mean, get a grip. Get a grip. We have so many bigger problems in this world. You know, we've got 20,000 children living down on the border in squalor. They're being, you know, trafficked. They're being abused. And we're worrying about Snow White getting an unwarranted kiss from Prince Charming on a Disney ride. I mean, people, please. All right. Before I go too far down the politics road, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm kind of excited, you know, excited and sad a little bit. You know, as you all know, I'm sure this upcoming Sunday is Mother's Day. And if you've forgotten it's Mother's Day, I've given you plenty of notice. You can remember to go out and do something nice for your mother. Now, you hear me say, do something nice for your mother. Now, you know, it was funny. I was Googling before I got on, like, you know, some of the best gifts that you can get, you know, for your mother on Mother's Day. And I found this one website that I just ended up, you know, Xing out of and getting out of eventually, but it showed like the 20 top gifts you can give for your mother on Mother's Day. And I swear to God, every gift, I think the cheapest gift on the list was like $200, and they ranged up to buying her like the mirror, exercise mirror for like $1,700 for Mother's Day. First of all, who can afford $1,700 on their mother for Mother's Day? And again, I could just imagine now, my mother unfortunately passed away a number of years ago, so I can't celebrate Mother's Day with her. And my mother-in-law also passed away, so we don't have her in the mix either. But we do have my wife, and she's a great mother, a great woman. I love her dearly. Our children love her dearly. And she's really just an amazing person in every step of the way, really. I mean, every way you could think of an amazing person, she is an amazing person. But I can imagine what it would be like for me if I spent $1,700 on an exercise mirror for her for Mother's Day. Could you imagine how this conversation is going to go? I can already hear her opening that up, looking at it and saying, "What are you trying to say? What do you think, I'm fat?" That would be the first comment. And she's not fat. She's beautiful. Even if she were a little fat, it doesn't matter to me. I'm certainly not an Adonis at this point in my age, in my age. So, for me, it's just crazy when you have these expectations from different sites and different groups that tell you have to spend a ton of money on someone you love for Mother's Day, when that really isn't the case. Now, I see someone in here that's moon feather saying you want to take yours out for dinner. That's perfect. So what I did was I put up a little list of my own of nice things you could do for your mother on Mother's Day, right? And my kids do some of these things also. We have some traditions in our house. The number one thing that my kids like to do for my wife, and again, it's not always the best cooked meal, but they like to make her breakfast in bed. And, again, that's something that's pretty simple. Sometimes they whip up some eggs. Sometimes maybe it's French toast. Sometimes it's pancakes. Maybe we just do something as simple as going out to Dunkin' Donuts and getting her a coffee and donuts and things like that, but just doing something really sweet to show your wife, the mother of your children, whoever, that you care about her. So breakfast in bed has always been kind of a favorite for us, and it doesn't really cost any, a lot of money. And again, I don't think you have to spend a ton of money to show someone that you love them. To me, I've always had a problem with that whole concept of, buying ridiculously expensive gifts just to try to show someone you love. I mean, you're not really showing love by doing that. And there's nothing wrong with buying nice gifts for people, but I mean, you don't have to do it. I think sometimes that people that don't have a lot of money sometimes feel the pressure of having to buy an expensive gift for a spouse or for a wife or for a mother when they don't have the funds to do so. And I think in general, people prefer kind of like, nice acts or random acts of kindness that you can do for people. So number one on my ideas for Mother's Day gifts, make breakfast in bed. David Marshall, welcome to the show. Maybe get something like a spring floral bouquet for the woman in your life, the mother, your wife, whatever. If you get roses, they're going to be super expensive, but you can go to like any flower store and get like some nice spring floral bouquet, give that as a gift. And I'm sure that the woman in your life is going to absolutely love that. Now, here's another one. My wife's amazing. She is, as a lot of you know, she's a doctor. So she works long hours. I work remotely out of the house. So that's why I do my podcast during my lunch break every day. But my wife works long hours, and she is a very good cook. And I am not a very good cook. So she comes home and she cooks dinner, for our children after work. For me, I microwave a couple of hot dogs. She comes home and cooks a good dinner for our kids, and she likes to do it. So maybe on Mother's Day, you can actually go out and work with your children and create a nice dinner for your wife. You'll cook a lunch, cook a dinner. If you can't cook and you can't really create anything that's edible, then maybe take her out to a restaurant someplace. You probably have to book reservations at most places, a little while before Mother's Day, but it doesn't have to be someplace fancy. I mean, we've even done Mother's Day breakfast at like our favorite breakfast place and things like that. So, if you're on a budget, you don't have to spend a lot of money to show your love. I think during the course of the day, if you dedicate a whole day to your mom and just do some nice things for her, help her out with chores, let her put her feet up for a day and let her relax and let her enjoy herself while maybe you do the dishes, maybe you clean up for her, maybe you cook lunch for her, do those type of things and just make her day a little bit better, So do some of mom's chores. That's another one. Help her out because, as you know, moms, they end up today being pulled in a lot of different directions. Back in the day, moms would stay home, take care of their kids. And my mother never really did that. She did work as a nurse, but she did stay home more than my father did, with some of the responsibilities of being a mom. But I mean, today women, man, it's tough for them. They're expected to be, slaying their career, being the great mother who, cooks dinner every night, is president of the PTO and doing all these different things for their kids. And it's not easy to be a woman in the year 2021. So make it a special day for your wife. Cook her lunch, do her chores, do something nice for your mother. If you want to buy her a gift, it doesn't have to be, a $700 bag. That was one of the things I saw on the other list. It was like a $700 bag you can buy your wife. My wife, it was funny. I bought her a very expensive Coach purse a few years back. And she's not the type of person that would ever buy a Coach purse for herself. She's just not really into those type of things. But I wanted to buy her something nice. Hey, Mr. A, what's up? So I bought her a Coach purse, and I think it got stolen like a month later with her computer in it. She had her computer in it. She left it in her car up in New Hampshire, and someone stole the Coach purse and her computer out of her car because she had forgotten to lock her doors. So that was the last Coach purse we got her. But she did appreciate it. But honestly, I don't think she really cared anyway. So if you don't have a ton of money, maybe something like a mani-pedi for the woman in your life. Buy her one of those. It's spring. The ladies are wearing sandals more, showing those toes off. Get them a mani-pedi. Maybe something like a massage or spa treatment. We have a place in the mall that's not too far from where my kids work. And you can go in there, and they have like a little place in the mall where you can go in and pay I think it's like $40 for like a 40-minute massage in this place. And I went in and ended up getting one. And I don't know if I told that story, but it was kind of creepy, actually. I don't know if I should recommend this. But I did go in and pay $40, and I got myself a massage one day. And it was all good until the woman who was giving me a massage, she was this little tiny Asian woman wearing yoga pants. And at one point, she was like massaging my shoulders, and she turned around and actually sat on my head, the back of my head, which I thought was kind of strange. So I didn't even know what to do at that point. How do you say to the woman, hey, get off my head? But she was sitting on my head while she massaged my shoulders. And then I don't know if this is common, but she actually pulled my shorts down and actually massaged my backside. And I mean, this was not like in a combat zone or like next to a strip club. I mean, this was in a mall, and I didn't envision it was going to be anything that turned creepy, but I will admit those two parts of it were creepy. So it was funny. I went home and told my wife about it. I'm like, hey, I went to this massage place. Is it normal for the people in there to like pull down your shorts and massage your backside? And my wife's like, no. That has never happened to me before. So I'm like, okay. So this woman sat on my head, and then she massaged my backside. I had no idea. I thought it was part of the deal, and it was kind of peculiar and kind of strange. So yeah, maybe you should cross the massage off the list, unless it's like a reputable place. Don't go to the places I tell you to go to. So another thing that we like to do as a family, and this is a good Mother's Day thing: rent a movie, have a family movie night. If you have kids, I think a lot of times moms like to just sit down and be with their children. And, in today's day and age, you got mom and dad are on their phones, surfing Facebook or Instagram or whatever they're doing. Kids are playing Xbox, kids are on TikTok, and no one's really engaging. Maybe you either, play a board game or just sit down and watch a movie together and have some popcorn and chill out and connect as a family. That might be a nice thing to do. And this is one, I've talked about this with my wife, and this doesn't have to be terribly expensive. Right now, with COVID happening, I mean, hotels are like super, super cheap. Yeah, board games are good too, like, Monopoly, whatever games you like. We do play board games in my house, and they are fun. So that might be better than a movie, because if you're watching a movie, you're not really talking. You're watching a movie. But if you're playing a board game, you can connect as a family. So that might be a nice thing to do also. So game night is always good. So anyway, hotels are really cheap right now. I had to stay at one for work a few weeks back, and I literally got a Hilton hotel through Priceline. I think it was like $49 for a night at a Hilton. So how about if your wife is stressed, or if your mom is stressed, give her a night just to go and stay in a hotel and have some private time. My wife's got 4 kids. She's working all day, 4 kids at her all night, patients calling her. I mean, she doesn't have a moment of free time. So imagine letting her just go pamper herself for a night and stay in a hotel and just lay in bed and read a book and do whatever she wants to do. And now you can get like a super cheap hotel, and just kind of take some private time for yourself. So we've thought about that, buying my wife a hotel getaway, but I know her. I know she won't like it. She won't like being alone for a night in the hotel. It's just how she is. So again, a couple more on this list, lunch at her favorite restaurant. And how about something like this? With the weather trending nicer, we're fortunate here in Massachusetts, where I live a little over an hour from the beach. So a nice walk at the ocean, take a drive to the ocean, take a nice walk on the beach, kind of reflect on your lives, talk about how quickly, life passes sometimes. I mean, honestly, for us, it feels like sometimes my wife and I got married 3 years ago, where it's now been almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this September, 4 kids. My oldest is going off to college. Just really reflect on some of the things that have been happening, and really just take a moment to pause and, and enjoy, your life and enjoy some of the things that are going on. Because, for us, before we know it, all 4 of our kids will be gone and we'll be playing shuffleboard someplace in Florida. And I hate shuffleboard. I'm not a big shuffleboard fan. So anyway, hey, dude, Sean, welcome to the show. Back at home, Monty, or Black Hat Monty. Sorry, I read that wrong. Excuse me, bad eyes here. So anyway, before we get into some of the aspects of the show, now I was thinking about some other things I like to do in the spring and the summer. Now, for the people in here, I've got some people in the live. If you could, in the chat, let me know some of the things that you all enjoy doing during the spring, during the summer. For me, we go to a lot of baseball games because my kids play. But one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and I haven't been able to do it as much the last couple of years, are going to like garage sales and going to yard sales and going even to estate sales, where people are selling all the contents of their home, because you never know what you're going to find, right? So I started thinking about, the yard sales I've been to. I started thinking about the garage sales I've been to and some of the good collectibles that I've bought over the years. It was kind of funny. I ended up one year going to an estate sale, and I walked in, and I remember right away seeing a team signed photo of the New England Patriots after they won their first Super Bowl, going way back. So I looked at that, and I'm a big sports fan. So I was like, oh man, this is cool. So I talked to the woman who was running the estate sale. It wasn't the people that own the house. And I said, hey, I'm looking at that Patriots picture up there. What's the price on that? She's like, well, I don't know. They're not, they're not really into, I guess, sports that much. Someone gave them that as a gift, and they put a price on it of like $25. So if you want it, you can take it for that. I looked at it and I'm like, absolutely, I'll take that for $25. So I took it for $25, put it in my car. And then when I got home that night, I took a closer look at it, and then I flipped it over and looked at the back of it. There was an envelope on the back of the Patriots signed picture. So it was like a certificate of authenticity from PSA DNA, and the suggested price on this was $2,000. So I ended up picking up like a Patriots signed Super Bowl, framed picture of the whole team, Tom Brady's signature on it and everything. I paid $25 for it. It was worth $2,000, to the point where I almost felt guilty. And I remember another time I went to a yard sale, and I'm not sure if any of you guys know baseball players that well, but I went to a yard sale and I was driving by, and this was another funny story, where there was nothing really on the table that I was interested in, but I saw a baseball on the table. So I picked it up and looked at it, and right away I knew the signature. Like, there was no paperwork with this, but I saw the signature, and it was Cal Ripken Jr., who played for the Baltimore Orioles. Great player. He beat Lou Gehrig's record for the most consecutive games played. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame, et cetera, et cetera. So I said to the woman, I'm like, how much do you want for this baseball? And she literally said $5. I said, listen, I've got to be honest with you. I don't know if you know what you have here, but this is a Cal Ripken Jr. baseball. He's in the Hall of Fame. This is probably, if it's a legitimate signature, probably a pretty valuable ball that's probably worth a couple $100. So she goes, well, to be honest with you, I got divorced. And she goes, for my last birthday, my husband bought me this baseball. She goes, I don't like baseball. I don't watch baseball. I could care less about baseball. And this guy ended up cheating on me. I got a divorce. I don't want anything in this house from him. If you like baseball, you take it, $5. So I ended up getting a Cal Ripken Jr. signed baseball. And I've actually got it right up in my baseball case right now. And that was kind of funny. So anyway, I was looking at this list. I found a couple of lists. So if you're going to be hitting any yard sales or any garage sales this upcoming year, I found a list of some of the things that are the most valuable and now things that are the least valuable in 2021. So I guess, well, let's start with the most valuable. Oh, WWE memorabilia. Ooh, that's cool. So you collect some of that Moonfeather? That's awesome. You know what we had? We went to a yard sale, Moonfeather, and we found, who the hell was it? We had a Hulk Hogan action figure. And who was the other one we found? I think it was maybe like the Junkyard Dog. You remember that wrestler? So it was old WWF memorabilia, but that's pretty cool because I like that stuff also. So yeah. All right. Anyway, so these are some of the things right now. So if you're going to yard sales, if you're going to garage sales, these are the things you have to look for in 2021. Okay. Baseball cards, number one. Because of the pandemic, baseball card values have gone through the roof. Crazy money. So if you're seeing baseball cards, even if it's a set from like the 1970s or 1980s, because in the past, mostly just 1940s, 1950s baseball cards were very valuable. But baseball cards now in the 70s and 80s have been very valuable. I have one complete set. I think it was from I can't remember, 78 maybe, that I had from when I was a kid. And there are 3 cards in that set that if they get ranked like a PSA 10, then each of the cards is worth like $12,000. So look for baseball cards, especially if you see older baseball cards. Some of them are worth nothing, But if you come across, something like a Ty Cobb or a Hannes Wagner or some of these really, really rare baseball cards, I mean, the original Tobacco Hannes Wagner card sells for over $1 million if you can find one of those. So if you see baseball cards at an auction and they're older, buy them. Oh, that's on the list, Moonfeather. I'm going to get to that in a second. All right, another thing that's very valuable. Now, who remembers the TV show The Brady Bunch? Does anyone remember that show? I actually have been trying to create a complete set of Brady Bunch trading cards. I think they had a set of like 55 trading cards that were manufactured back in either 1969 or 1971. I think I'm like 7 or 8 cards short. The complete set of Brady Bunch trading cards from back in the early 70s is actually retailing for about $2,000. So if you're at a yard sale and you see a complete set of Brady Bunch cards, or even individual Brady Bunch cards, like the number 1 card in that series is worth $200 by itself. So if you're at a yard sale, you see baseball cards, Brady Bunch cards, or really any other early era TV cards, those are things to really spend some money on and buy them if you see them. Number 2 on my list, vintage lunch boxes. Now, I don't know if any of you guys remember this. A lot of you are probably younger, but back in the day in like the 70s, popular TV shows like Happy Days, Welcome Back Kotter, Good Times, all these shows they had on back then. They had like metal lunch boxes the kids would bring into school of those TV shows. The $6 Million Man. You had like a thermos inside these metal lunch boxes, and they were super cool. Every kid had them back in the day, and they've become very valuable now. Like some of the most expensive lunch boxes, I have one that I collected them for a while, and I sold all of them but one. I've got a lunchbox from the 1960s TV show, The Rifleman, if anybody knows that show. And that in good condition is worth over $1,000. So if you go to a yard sale and you see those old metal TV lunchboxes, snap one of those up. You'll make some money on those. You can sell them on eBay and they go really fast. People love to collect those. All right, so we got so far baseball cards, vintage lunchboxes. Another one that's very popular, if you can find old vintage comic books. I'm talking the old ones, old ones where people or heroes have been turned into movies and things like that. Like I think the original Superman issue 1 comic book is worth close to $1 million if you can find one of those. Now, most of the comic books you are going to find are going to be useless, but if you end up going to an old house and you find an old comic book collection, spend the money and bring it home and bring it someplace, because you might end up with a real treasure on your hands. Okay, now this is a good one also. I know there are a lot of Star Wars fans out there. Original Star Wars memorabilia, not the new stuff they've been cranking out now, but if you can find original Star Wars memorabilia from the 1970s, you can basically almost write your own check for those. I mean, they are worth so much money. So if you're at a yard sale, a garage sale, and you find old Star Wars figurines, pony up and buy them, because they're going to be worth money and you'll make a fortune on them. Now, this is one I know nothing about, but they were saying China sets. Like, if a grandmother collected old china, old plates and cups and things like that, apparently some of these sets are worth a ton of money. So if you go to a yard sale and you see like antique china and you can get it for a decent price, some of them are worth thousands. So take a look for those. Hey, Victor, how you doing? So your daughter likes the cartoon Naruto. I don't think I know that cartoon. I'll have to look that up and see what it is. So anyway, now this is a weird one. But do you remember when all the states came out with their own quarters? You had state quarters. Apparently, for whatever reason, quarters from the state of Kansas are very valuable. So if you have like a big change jug in your house, you might want to flip through that and look and see if you have any quarters from the state of Kansas. Apparently they're worth a lot of money, and some of them are worth really quite a bit. So take a look through your old change jug, see if you can find anything from Kansas, any quarters. And I'm not sure why they're valuable, but that was on the top list of very collectible things that are worth money. Now, here we go. This is something that someone already brought up. Pokemon cards. Some of these are worth literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you in your childhood were collecting Pokemon cards and you got them sitting up in a closet someplace or hidden up in your attic, go find them, because they're worth a fortune. You might have enough to put a down payment on a house if you have the right Pokemon card in your collection. So go take a look for those. Now, this next one's a weird one. I've got like 15 things on the list. The next one's strange. I don't even get this one. Boy Scout memorabilia. I'm not sure why that would be worth it, but apparently maybe it's because Boy Scouts is failing. I have no idea. But apparently Boy Scout memorabilia has become valuable. So take a look for those as well. Yeah, dude, if you have, I have the sets too. It's funny. I have right here, right on my desk, I'm pulling it out now, my state quarter deluxe set. I've got 2 books full of the different letters also, but yeah, so I've been collecting those also. Is that what it is though? So there were errors in the Kansas quarter. So maybe that's what it was. If you happen to find a Kansas quarter that has an error, then maybe that's what makes them valuable. So that could be what it is. So, but apparently they're valuable. So take a look and see if you have any. Hey, dude, Sean, welcome back. Okay, vintage signs. You're probably aware that these are valuable. Now, if you've ever watched that show, American Pickers, I mean, some of the old gasoline signs, mobile gas signs. I hate to say it, but Coca-Cola, you know how I feel about Coca-Cola, but Coca-Cola signs, things like that. If you happen to find someone that's willing to part from their old signs, these things may be worth thousands. So just kind of be on the lookout for those. If you can pick one up cheap, you'll make some money on it. Now, I'm going to run through the rest of this list. We've already talked about a bunch of things. If you remember back, I think it might have been the 80s and 90s. Who remembers Polly Pocket? They were like little dolls, I think, or some type of little action figures. Apparently, those are back in now, and people are paying a fortune for the old Polly Pocket dolls. So if you have any of those stuffed away, put them on eBay. You're going to make some money. Okay, retro video games. So old video games, I mean, obviously Xbox and PlayStation are in now, but if you have like original Atari, original Nintendo, even like an original in television, some of those old games, some of those are worth quite a bit of money now. So look for those. Also, some vintage vinyl albums are worth a lot of money. So if you go to a yard sale and you come across, 100 albums, old vinyl albums, buy them for a few bucks. You could sell them to like a used vinyl store anyway. And if you happen to get one that's super valuable, I mean, you can end up getting a few $1,000 or even more from like a vintage vinyl album. But I mean, most of them aren't worth a lot, but there are some that are worth quite a bit. Vintage Pyrex. So that's like the glassware, like cups and bowls and things like that, is also apparently worth some money. Now, do you remember the American Girl dolls? Now, not like the newer ones, but the older American Girl dolls from like the 1980s and 1990s. I saw on the list that, believe it or not, one of those old American Girl dolls, if you happen to have one of those, sold for over $5,000 on eBay. So again, if you're at a yard sale, garage sale, estate sale, these are some of the things you should be looking for because you can really make some money. All right, two more things on this list. Number 15, typewriters, believe it or not. The old-fashioned typewriters are in. And if you can find a vintage typewriter, then you might get, even up over $1,000, depending on the model for an old typewriter. So, dude, Eric, I have so much stuff that I collect. If you could see my office, I have stuff everywhere. Like right now, I'm looking at my bobbleheads. I'm looking at my USB drives from the Big Bang Theory. I've got Sheldon looking at me. I've got Negan, the Negan action figure from The Walking Dead looking at me right now. So I've got all these different things. I've got memorabilia like all over my office. It's kind of funny. Yeah, you're right, Jess Doc. The covers of some of these records can be worth more than the vinyl. You're absolutely right about that. Hey, listen, if you're all here, if you could please share my live show. We're just talking about some things for the summer. We went over going over some of the gifts you could buy for Mother's Day. Now we're talking about some of the things that you should be looking for if you're going to yard sales this summer, because of the pandemic, some things have really, really taken off and are worth quite a bit of money. So those are some of the things I had on my list. I'll run through that again very quickly, just naming them all off. So baseball cards, TV show memorabilia, vintage lunchboxes, vintage comic books, original Star Wars memorabilia, China sets, plates, things like that are older, Kansas quarters. And Jess had mentioned that some of them have spelling errors. Tip out your change jug and see if you find one. You might have some quarters worth some money. Pokemon cards, Boy Scout memorabilia. That one still perplexes me. Vintage signs like Coca-Cola signs, gasoline signs, things like that. Polly Pocket figures, retro video games going back to like Atari and Nintendo. Some vinyl records, some vintage vinyl, vintage Pyrex collectional plates and cups, American Girl dolls, typewriters, and then also other types of action figures, like they were saying, like G.I. Joe, and some of those old action figures from the 70s are worth some money. So Ruku's Beer, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Hey, Eric, do you want to call in? I kind of forgot. I'm ranting. I'm already 38 minutes into my show. And if anybody else wants to call in, please do so. I just accepted you, Eric, so I'm not sure if you're there. How are you, Eric? Oh,
good morning. Good afternoon. Well, good to be here.
Good. So what did you do this weekend? Anything exciting? Did you go see family or just kind of hang around at home?
Mostly hanged around at home. Did my usual first of the month routine. And I know we're getting rain here right now. We had a downpour just a while ago, but it seems like it's let up.
Really? Yeah. We have a pretty nice day today, but the rain's coming. I think we're at about 70 degrees here in the Massachusetts area, but it looks like this week, almost every day, we're going to have like a chance of rain, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. It's springtime and you get your rain and hopefully that'll all turn to, hot sunny days before we know it. Yeah. Let's see. So I see Eric said he sold
that was me.
So this is you, Eric. You sold a small University of Alabama elephant figurine and vinyl records to a guy in Covington. Sold a pair of Sears binoculars 3 years ago. Also sold a bar lamp, an NFL mirror. Did you make money on all those? Did you do okay?
I made like a little bit of cash money, but I know like when it comes to like vinyl records, I mean, I have no clue like the value of certain vinyls, but before I sold them, I had to like do kind of like a visual inspection and kind of feel them but vinyls that were cracked and warped I wound up having to toss those, but those that looked like they were in very good condition, I was able to sell them and make a little bit of money.
Nice. One of the things that still kills me is some of the cars, the classic cars back in the 70s that I could have bought for like no money.
Yeah.
I remember being like 16, 17 years old. And one of the cars that I absolutely loved, if there are any car people in here, the old Chevy Chevelles. Absolutely, in my opinion, the most beautiful muscle car that was ever created. 454 cubic inch engine. I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful car. Back in I guess early 80s, somewhere around there, whenever I turned 16, I could have bought one of those for like $3,000, like for nothing. Kids were driving them around as beaters. And now, if you look at all the auction shows, like the Mecum auction shows and things like that, you cannot get like a Chevelle for like less than like $70,000. So they are just top money. I wish I knew back in the day that this was going to happen. I could have gone and just put like 10 Chevelles in a barn someplace and let them sit there for 20 years. And I would have had, $700,000 worth of cars in my hand. So it would have been crazy. So I see someone, let me scroll back up here. Jess Duck, your dad had a 67 Chevelle SS with a big engine. Absolutely beautiful car. I'm totally into this. So,
there was even like one day I was going to a previous dental appointment and I followed what looked like a late 60s, early 70s Rolls Royce Phantom.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's the kind of car you don't see out on the road every day. And then I even have a friend who lives like about 20 minutes away from me. He owns a 1976 Lincoln Continental.
Nice.
Hi, everyone.
Oh yeah, hi. How are you?
Welcome.
I'm good. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I want to know which topic is going here.
Oh, we're just talking about a variety of different things. Right now, we were initially talking about Mother's Day. We were talking about some antiques that you can collect. And now we're just talking about cars. And in a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about politics. So we're just talking about a variety of different things. So what would you like to talk about? Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. I want to know about how can we improve in English? How can we speak fluently? I want to know this suggestion. And firstly, I want to know, where are you speaking from?
Okay, I'm speaking from Massachusetts, about an hour west of Boston. And the other gentleman that's on is in Georgia in the United States.
I'm about 40 minutes outside of Atlanta.
Sorry, can you repeat once again, please?
I'm near Boston, and the other gentleman is from Atlanta in the United States.
Okay, nice. Thank you for
Where
that.
are you from?
I'm from India.
India, beautiful. Yeah, I get a lot of
we got a lot of friends in India.
A lot of friends.
Mr. Coley.
Yeah.
Habo Chillin, Pariah, Wazad. I mean, you'll probably see him here on Podbean.
Yeah, I come here on Podbean for improvement English. I want to learn new things and for improvement English. That's why I'm here.
Learning slowly is key to learning to speak better English and learning how to clearly articulate it. And also researching what certain English terms mean.
All right.
Yes,
All right. So anyway,
exactly.
Yeah. So I want to get back into the cars we were talking about. I see people talking about the Rolls Royce and things like that. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but was it last August? Of course, I'm an older guy, and you know how it is. Those older, bald guys, when they get into their 40s and 50s, they start having that midlife crisis. So I told my wife that, of course, I wanted a Chevelle, but she wasn't going to let me spend $70,000 on a car. So she told me I could find a midlife crisis mobile if I could find one for under $10,000. And believe me, I looked high and low. I could not find anything I really wanted for under $10,000. However, last August, I finally found a 2004 black Corvette convertible. It only had 40,000 miles on it, and I got it for $14,000. It was in great condition, and I was close to my budget. So I remember going back to my wife. I'm like, listen, you got to give me a little slack here. We're talking 14 grand. You told me it had to be under 10. That's a steal, even for an older Corvette. So I got that last August, and oh my God, why haven't I owned one earlier? It is so much fun to drive with the top down. The thing is fast. It's got like a 350 engine, so it's not nothing like the big block that the Chevelles had, but just a beautiful car. And hey, I'm just another old bald guy in a Corvette, but I don't care. I love it. And it's funny. My wife, she would always talk about, why do men want cars like that? Why do they want a Corvette? Why do you want a car like that? Are you trying to attract women? And I'm like, oh, I've got a wife. I don't want any other women. One is more than enough. Trust me, I'm good. I don't want anybody else. But then as she rides in this with me, after about 3 or 4 trips in the car, she goes, you know what? I think I finally get it. This is like women having like nice clothes, right? Because you're doing it more for other women than you are for men. Because I've got like, men pulling over, hey, nice car. I've got little boys as I drive by them. Nice car, mister. So she goes, having the car is about the boys, right? I'm like, absolutely. You get it. It's about me and the other guys that appreciate it. So it's kind of funny. She actually got that. Oh, blockchain. I know that car. Now I was a 70s and 80s child, so I definitely know the old Dodge Dart. Beautiful cars. Very, very nice cars. So I'm definitely a car guy, and I've been enjoying my Corvette convertible. Yes. So I don't think I'll be buying a new one. I don't know if you guys have seen the prices on the new Corvettes, but they're kind of like almost like McLaren or Lamborghini prices. They're like $150,000, and that's a hell of a lot of money for a car. So I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. So Libai, welcome to the show. What else do I got on my list here? Let me flip back because I did have some other things I want. Oh, this is something I wanted to talk about also. All right. I had talked earlier about what happened in Colorado. And for the people in the show right now, you didn't hear this. But for those of you who didn't hear, this was kind of like a national news story. And this scares me a little bit because we have bear that live where I live. Apparently, a black bear attacked a woman in Colorado and killed her. She went for a walk with her 2 dogs, and police and her boyfriend found her body a couple hours later. The dogs had run back to the house. They were in the yard with off the leashes. The boyfriend came home, saw the dogs, knew something was wrong, so he called the police. They found her, quote unquote, partially consumed body off the side of the road, and they found scratches in the hair of bear on her. So apparently she was attacked by a bear, killed, and then they partially consumed her, which is absolutely horrific. And it literally scares the hell out of me to think about that because we have bear in my area, right? So let's see, scary. There's an episode by South Park about man bear in Colorado. Isn't I going to look for that? I've never seen that. So I got to see that. But that's scary shit, man. We had a bear in my yard once, as I was saying earlier in the show, and it had to be like 600 pounds. It was crazy. So anyway, crazy stuff happening there. I talked about, we've all talked about canceled culture. What's happening in this country? Do you see now they're after Disney World. They're after Snow White. In Disney World, they have a new Snow White ride. And apparently because the prince kisses Snow White at the end of the ride and doesn't ask for her permission first. Of course, she is under a spell because she ate a poison apple. He couldn't ask permission, and he did bring her back to life. But because he did not get her permission to kiss her when she was under the spell, they now want to cancel this ride because it's basically, in their opinion, rapey. Are you friggin' kidding me, people? Come on. Just crazy stuff. So a couple more things I want to talk about, and then I'm going to have a little discussion about something also before I sign off. Now, Eric, I'm sure you probably saw this. Did you see Caitlyn Jenner came out today, and it may have been yesterday, and she was speaking against boys or girls who are born biologically as men, and then they become women through the operation. They become trans, and they become women. So a lot of these women across the country now are competing in girls' sports against biological girls. And from what he's saying now, from what she's saying, and when I said he, I don't know if any of you know who Caitlyn Jenner was at one point. I'm old enough to remember. Caitlyn Jenner was an Olympian. She was Bruce Jenner, and she won, I don't even know how many gold medals, like 15 gold medals, 10 gold medals.
Well, decathlon champion.
Oh, yeah. He was amazing. I mean, he was an unbelievable athlete. And, of course, he through his life said he never felt like a man. He always felt like a woman. So he finally went through the surgery, became Caitlyn Jenner. He's now running for governor. But he came out and said point blank, there is no way that biological boys should be competing against girls in sports. And you had people in the media ripping him. I mean, who could you ask for a better opinion than a man that during his life was an Olympic champion and then transitioned over to being a woman and has been through both gamuts of everything. I mean, to me, you look at what Caitlyn Jenner said about, biological boys not competing against girls. It makes complete sense because really it's putting the girls in danger and it's not giving them a chance to truly win and compete against, people that are like them. So I love that Caitlyn Jenner came out and said this, and I can't believe I'm actually saying something to support Caitlyn Jenner because quite honestly, I don't know. I just feel like that whole family dynamic is like a big circus with the Jenners and the Kardashians and all that type of stuff. So yeah, she is. She's running for, I think, is it California governor? I think, right, Eric? Isn't that who she's running for?
I believe so. Bruce, Caitlyn Jenner is supposed to be running as the Republican candidate to, it looks like, that, they're going to do the recall election on Gavin Newsom.
Right.
But with Caitlyn Jenner, I still loved her as Bruce.
I remember Bruce Jenner was on the cover of Wheaties cereal. Remember the Breakfast of Champions? Remember Bruce Jenner?
Brody Jenner's father. And married to Kris Kardashian Jenner.
Right.
Of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, or Kartrashians fame, as I call them.
Kartrashians, I love that. That's that whole thing. The Kardashians, I have no interest in that whole circus. So that's kind of why I've thrown Caitlyn Jenner into that whole thing. But, this is kind of funny. If you think about it now, California, how are they going to react to this? Because, here you have, a trans Caitlyn Jenner who's running for governor, but she's a conservative. So she's not a Democrat. So how are they going to basically take away her credibility when basically she is everything supposedly that the Democratic Party supports? So how do they not welcome her into the state and running for governor? This is going to be interesting to see the Democratic Party kind of tap dance.
I don't know if you, have heard about Tim Scott. Joyless Behar, got her ass handed to her by Tim Scott in a way, big time.
Right.
Because and Tim Scott is a black conservative who is in the United States Senate from South Carolina, and he basically just ripped her a new asshole.
Nice. So anyway, I did like the comment, and I think Caitlyn Jenner's absolutely right. She's right. I mean, if you're going to have biological boys competing against girls, it's just not fair for the girls. And I'm not saying this to be sexist. Girls' sports have come so far. And to be honest with you, if I had to make a choice between watching a girls' softball game and a boys' baseball game, I would choose the softball game. They're fast, they're exciting. It's a great sport to watch. But I mean, men are in general, not all in all cases, but male athletes are, for the most part, bigger than women. And it's very tough. I mean, I couldn't imagine a girl competing in, say, football unless she was like a kicker or in one of those positions, because I mean, you've got guys that are 6'8", 340 pounds that run like deer, and they're amazing. So hey, Cummings, man, welcome to the show. How are you?
What's going on, John?
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear Jeremy.
You can. Let me check all my buttons here. I can't hear him for whatever reason. I get everything on, so I should be able to hear him. Jeremy, you there, man?
Yeah, can you not hear me?
Let's see. Weird. I've got everything turned on, right? Get these other ones.
Hang on a moment.
Yeah, we'll try and find them. Jeremy, where are you, my friend?
Hey, let me hang up and I'll call right back in.
Huh. Yeah, I've got everything on. All my buttons are.
All right. Can anybody still hear me? All right. I don't know if we can hear you, John. I think John may have just muted on us. John is a Gen Xer, not a baby boomer, Mr. A. Refresh your browser, John.